Hey guys, I've had a recipe for Hawaiian shaved ice made out of just natural flavors like fruit for a while in my drawer. And I keep putting it off thinking, yeah, I'll make that later. Okay, I'll get good at it. Then I'll do a video for it. But you know what? No, you're going to go along with me for the ride. And I'm not going to use sugar in this. I'm going to use honey. We're going to see how it tastes. So that means I can have some if it's made out of honey because I just don't like what sugar does to me. I felt the difference and I'd rather have honey. It doesn't have any after effects. Sugar just does. No matter how small it is, it just really does. Whether you want to admit it or not. I used to just get so excited when sugar would come toward me, but it's just not worth it. So might be sharing it with the neighborhood kids too. They'll love that. And it's a hot day, so nothing better than a big old snow cone on a hot day. So you are going to be experiencing this with me. We'll see how this goes. Might be a flop. If it's a flop, it's just a flop. I'll say don't try this. But welcome back. If you're a first-time viewer, my name's Tanya, and this is She's At It Again. And let's get going on the recipe for some Hawaiian shaved ice. All right, I'm going to turn my burner on. This is just a regular size saucepan. It's that little flimsy one that my grandma gave to me. This is just a 10-ounce bag of organic frozen strawberries. You are welcome to use fresh strawberries. I have fresh strawberries in my garage refrigerator, but you know what? I don't want to use them because I like eating those fresh. And I'm not going to use frozen ones for anything except for stuff like this. Now, how can I tear that thing off there and it's still not open? Let me get the scissors. It's like a trick bag. All right, I've had these in the refrigerator the last day just to thaw just a bit. Not that it matters because we're going to heat these up. You can also use, I did some research. There were people using mango in this. There were, of course, blueberries. They were putting lemongrass with the blueberries and cooking it down. They were adding rhubarb to the strawberries. They were, I don't know that they put anything with the mango. I can't remember. Anyway, I watched too many videos on this. I just don't want to goof it up. So we're going to heat our strawberries. I'm going to put about, I'm probably going to put about 1/3 of a cup of water in there. That's an awful big measuring cup for 1/3 cup of water. I know that looks ridiculous, but because I have 2 cameras set up and both of them are right in front of the cabinet that has most of my glass measuring cups in it, so you just roll with it. Okay, we're going to turn this on pretty high heat. I can feel that heating up. It always seems to go so slow when I have the camera on. And let's see, I wrote down what to use. I'm going to put about 1/4 to 1/3 cup of honey in this. Now, of course, most of the recipes I saw call for sugar, of course. Of course, a lot of them also called for artificial food color too. Like, I'm really going to put that in there. But we're going to try the honey. And the only thing I can figure is, in my mind, and I'm just thinking this out in my very, very uneducated mind, but I'm thinking that because the honey is so thick anyway, it's not necessarily a granular product in its natural state, that it's going to be thicker when you pour it onto the shaved ice, and it's going to cling to the ice better, not drip down to the center. You want it a thicker product. Now they'll add, you know, starches and stuff like that to store-bought shaved ice syrups, and that's what makes it thicker. But this will be naturally thick. Of course, we're going to reduce it also. We're going to cook it because the instructions say to cook it kind of mash the strawberries around, but we're going to put this through the Vitamix anyway. And I'd recommend, if you don't have a Vitamix, and granted, yes, it's an elaborate machine. We use it a lot, but it's not for those people who use a blender maybe twice a year. That's not what those are meant for. But they are an expensive machine, but a regular blender or even a hand immersion blender would work fine for this too, because you're going to strain out the seeds and stuff anyway. All right, so we have our honey in it. And this is just my cheap honey. This isn't the raw honey. I always call it the cheap honey. I buy it in these jugs and pour it in this container because it's easier to get out. Once it crystallizes after a while, then you can't get it out of a jug where the lid of it is this small and the bottom of it is this big. You just reach down there with a stick and basically just move it around. It doesn't come out very easily. All right, we're going to add a tiny bit of salt to this. It just says a pinch of salt, so we'll just go with a tiny bit. Now we're going to add something at the end, and I won't necessarily tell you what it is for now because that's something we'll do in a bit. But we're going to cook this down. And mash these. Let me adjust this camera if I have to be able to see. No, you can see what it is. So we're going to cook these down not only to soften the strawberries, but to get that honey dissolved, but also reduce that water out of it. And the water's in there to keep the strawberries from scorching on the bottom of the pan. So you got to add the water and then cook it to get the water out. And like I said, if you're going to use a really good mixer or blender, then, or food processor or blender, immersion blender, whatever, this mashing process isn't even necessary. All right, we'll let that come to a nice boil. Ooh, these smell so good. It's not every day you actually get to smell cooked strawberries, but the fragrance is just really fabulous. And with the risk of you turning up your nose at frozen strawberries thinking, why would I buy frozen when I can get fresh? Well, because the answer is frozen strawberries are picked and frozen at the peak of their ripeness. Fresh strawberries in the supermarket can pretty much be found all year round, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily ripe tasting. They may not be sweet, they may be on the tart side, but just really red from the farming practices that they use. So when you use frozen strawberries, you're more than likely going to get a really good ripe, sweet tasting strawberry. So that's the advantage to using a frozen strawberry. Plus, you don't have to panic and get these made really quickly. After you buy the fresh strawberries, you can just go, you know what? I'll just make those when I have time because they're frozen. Now, if you buy fresh strawberries in peak season and put your own in the freezer, there you go. It's a win-win right there. You know they're fresh and you know they're ripe tasting with a lot of sweetness to them. Okay, so let's go back and visit the artificial color topic. Why do I not use just store-bought snow cone flavoring? All right, I'm going to turn this heat down just a bit too. Artificial color is produced with chemicals in a lab. It is not a food product. And when I say it is not a food product, it probably should not be a food product. In fact, I can remember as a kid. I don't know, I might have been 10 years old, but I went to visit my grandmother in Marked Tree, Arkansas. And my sister and I always went, and my grandmother worked outside the home. And so during the day, we were at her house, which was not real far from where she worked. And she would tell us we could cook anything we wanted to, just experiment in the kitchen. That was like a dream come true. We didn't get to do that very often at many places, but that was fun. And my food of choice to make was biscuits. And I made every flavor known to man. I made every shape with cookie cutters because she had all the cookie cutters and all the fun stuff. And I would just make biscuits coming and going. But for some reason, I was going to make something that day, maybe even a bowl of Jell-O or something. But I remember looking in her pantry and I could not find red Jell-O, and I needed some red Jell-O for something. But that was during a time when the government, believe it or not, had told the manufacturers to stop producing things with FD&C red number 40 in it. They found it too dangerous. The Food and Drug Commission, FTC, had said that red number 40 is too dangerous and should not be consumed. Okay, well, we'll just have to look for another color. But as a kid, I was thinking, come on, it's red. You need red color. Got to have red color. Well, that's what a kid thinks. So fast forward to, I don't know, maybe 2 years later. I can't really remember the timeline there. But red came back on the market. FD&C red number 40. Wait, that's what they outlawed. Oh, they probably just changed the formula. No, they didn't. Someone else was now in charge of the Food and Drug Commission, and that new person said, it's fine. So, I'm not trying to brainwash you into thinking something. I just want you to think for yourself. Is this a safe product if it was banned 1 year and then someone else came into office and it was okay after that without changing the formula? But I will tell you a story. Quick story while this is thickening up, and it is getting a little bit thicker, I can tell. A friend of mine, this has been probably not quite 10 years ago. A friend came to me and said, my son, who was about 2 at the time, is nonverbal. He gets so frustrated. I don't know what to do. And she had heard me voice concerns at something where I was either speaking or she was just talking to me about the dangers of artificial color in our foods. She said, I remember you saying that this affects children's behavior sometimes. Do you think if I cut out all artificial color in my son's food, that there would be a noticeable difference in his behavior? And I looked her square in the eye and I said, name me one thing you have to lose. Tell me one thing that would be an inconvenience for you if it did not work. She said, well, I don't really know how to read the labels. And I said, artificial color will be the very last ingredient on any label, almost, that I mean any of them that I know of. FD&C red number 40 being a prime culprit of behavior issues in kids. Blue lake, yellow lake. So all these colors, and there is no nutritional benefit whatsoever. In fact, it's on the deficit of the benefit scale. It is by far a deficit. Your kid may eat a bucket of artificial color and never even bat an eye at it, never have a behavior difference whatsoever. But I'm here to tell you, with all my friends as my witness, because this lady has told her story several times, not because of me, obviously, but just because of some information that I was passing on. Within 2 weeks of eliminating all artificial color in anything they were eating, and they were going for Fruit Loops, fruit roll-ups, ice cream, all these things that had artificial color in it, beverages, just all kinds of things. Even marshmallow cream has blue in it. A lot of brands do. But she was very, very deliberate about avoiding every artificial color. Within 2 weeks, her son was verbal, never missed a beat. And the only time since then that he has had issues is when someone accidentally gave him something that had an artificial color in it, and it takes about 3 days to get out of his system. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. There are videos on YouTube by experts in this field, not like myself, but experts in this field who their children have had the same experience with artificial color. So just let me give you an example of what I can compare this to, because I'm a big comparer of scenarios. Say I take your child and put him outside, and I close the door, and they have on a tank top and shorts, and it's snowing, and they start banging on the door saying, I need in, I'm cold. And all I can do is look out the window and say, quit your whining. You are being too loud. You are being too disruptive. But I've exposed them to such extreme elements, they can't help but beg for relief. This is what happens when some kids consume artificial colors. It's beyond their control, and yet we send them to school, we send them to daycare, we send them in the other room, and they come back with bad behavior reports, and then we punish them. Now, don't think I'm calling you a bad parent if you've done this. You're just unaware. I was unaware for a long time until people start talking about this, and I was like, what is going on here? So doing some research as much as I can in my very uneducated mind. This is a real thing, people. And the only reason the food color is in there is for marketing purposes. It's to get your attention. It has no nutritional value. It has no value whatsoever on the food we eat. So back to the reason I'm bringing it up with this is because this is not going to be that bright, bright red that you're seeing in a lot of snow cones. But it doesn't have artificial color in there. This is going to be a very mild, kind of a pink color, but it's going to be a good strawberry color. Now, those other flavors, they may taste like a strawberry, a chemically induced strawberry, but it's not artificial. It's not natural strawberry flavor, probably. But you've got so much artificial color in there. But all that story being said, what that's about is we're exposing our kids to things beyond their control. If we feed them something, they're not going to say, is there artificial color in this? Is there any FD&C red number 40? Because I might have an adverse reaction as far as my behavior is. They're not going to ask those questions. They don't know. But when they act out because of things going on inside them, like something that might give you a migraine, or something that might give you an allergic reaction, or something that might make your head hurt, or something that might give you the hives if you consume it. That's what's happening with them. But because we can't see any physical evidence of it on their skin or something like that, we don't contribute it to something they've eaten. So parents, in wiser choices, please, I'm begging of you, eliminate the artificial colors in your children's snacks, in their food, anything they consume. This is what you have control over. Now, if they accidentally get something at school or somewhere that they go, and they do have an adverse reaction to artificial colors, you'll notice it when it comes back. Because this mom that I'm talking about, her child went to an event and she had his special snacks marked, and the counselors that were there that were helping the kids, and when I say counselors, I don't mean like psychological counselors, I just mean like camp counselors. They accidentally gave him the snacks that everybody else had, and it was a whirlwind at their house for about 3 days. But just long enough for it to get out of his system, just like if you were to drink something that you were allergic to, it's going to take a while to get it out of your system, and it took a good 3 days for them to get it out of his system. Okay, I think we have our strawberries mashed up pretty good. The honey's dissolved. It's kind of a thickened state, and it's still, the water's still evaporating out of it, so it's still getting a little bit thicker. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to add some balsamic vinegar because I need an acid taste to that. Just to give it a little bit more flavor. Now, I don't want much. Just a little tiny drop of it. Now you could add something like lemon juice or lime juice if you wanted to. It'll just give it that brightness, but I'm thinking that this balsamic vinegar might be pretty good in this. And it smells fabulous. Okay, I'm going to turn my heat off. We're going to let this cool down to room temperature. And then we're going to put it through the food processor. So we'll let this cool off a bit. And then we'll come back in just a bit and process it till it's smooth. Okay, our strawberry mixture has cooled off a bit. That gave me time to go outside and get sweatier than I was actually supposed to. I left my apron on thinking I'll just go outside and get a few weeds out of the edge of the driveway. No, it doesn't work like that. It's just like handing me a bag of chocolate or something. It just doesn't, yeah. I can't come back in when I'm supposed to. All right, we're just going to pour our strawberry mix inside our Vitamix containers. Now, as you've guessed, once you mash the strawberries and you cook it down, 10 ounces of strawberries doesn't turn into very much product at the end. So you are welcome to double or triple this recipe. But what would be, I think, even more fun would be to try one with mango, one with blueberries, one with strawberries, just different colors of fruit. You could use kiwi as one if you wanted green. Add some lime to it. So the sweetness from the kiwi and then the tartness from the lime would be kind of fun, I would think. All right, set this aside. This machine is incredibly loud when it's running, so I apologize for that. We're going to puree this up and then we're going to strain it through our mesh strainer. It doesn't take long. Okay, let's make sure I'm getting this in the shot. I thought about what I was saying earlier about the, I was calling it the FDC, but it's the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, is the one who banned the red food coloring and then brought it back a few years later. But I think you probably knew who I was referring to. For all those teachers out there, shout out to them because they are trying to teach, trying to discipline, and then when you get that mixed in with foods that adversely affect a kid's behavior, it's just kind of it's like wrestling kittens, I'm sure. So I applaud you for your tenacity and sticking with it. All right, we're going to strain this. Now this Vitamix is such a powerful blender. It kind of froths it up, and it's going to take a little bit longer to go through this. But I just wanted you to kind of see about how much product we're going to wind up with. See, this is why you don't necessarily have to mash the strawberries in the pan. It's just more than anything, I think, to stand there and give you something to do while you're looking at them cook down. This Vitamix kind of pulverizes the seeds as well, so you have more product than you would with a regular blender, I think. There's a few seeds left in here. I say a few, maybe a fourth of a teaspoon of seeds. Okay, so this came out to just a little over 1 cup, between a cup and a cup and a fourth. So that's about how much product we have. And if you put it in a little bottle like this I think is like from the cake decorating department, maybe at a store, or no, the kitchen gadget department at our big store locally. Okay, just enough to fill up our bottle, and then enough for me to lick out of that container when the cameras go off. All right, so here's our strawberry snow cone syrup with absolutely no processed sugar in it. Fruit and honey, lower glycemic index than if you were to use sugar, and a lot better choice than if you were to use an artificial sweetener for someone who is, say, sugar sensitive or diabetic. All right, so hopefully I'll make some shaved ice tonight or tomorrow. You got to let this chill in the refrigerator. Keep it super cold. Now, the only way to make this better is if you had like some sweetened coconut milk, and you can sweeten that with honey as well, like the thicker kind of coconut milk, and pour over that and just make this decadent. It would be almost like a strawberry cheesecake snow cone. So something to think about. So hopefully you'll get an I start to say get an eyeball view, get a view of our snow cones when we finish those. So hopefully I'll remember to video that. Okay, here we go, guys. I'm gonna try our snow cone. It was thick enough to where it hadn't really soaked to the bottom yet, so this is probably kind of a biased opinion because I've got all that fruit flavor on the top. That's nice. That tastes like a fresh strawberry. Now your kids are probably going to eat this and they're going to go, that's not a snow cone, that's strawberry. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to taste like, fruit. You know, even if you didn't want to cook down the fruit, you could always get like organic grape juice, organic apple juice, things like that. Just cook it down, reduce it down. So what you're doing is basically evaporating the liquid out of it and use that as snow cone. I've done that at day camp before. And of course, the kids got in line. They say, I want the purple. And then they take a bite of it and go, this is grape juice. Really? You mean grape? You mean a purple snow cone would actually taste like a grape? How dare they? Who did that? So anyway, give this a try. If it's something you want to like cool off with, but just make better choices in it, this is actually a good one. I'll make this again, and we'll make different flavors too. Thanks for joining us, guys. See ya.